Here I've opened my website in Google Chrome and I want to show you how to inspect certain elements on a page. In fact, you can inspect the code behind any element. So let's just take this book cover as an example. You can either press F12 or Control-Shift-I to access the tools, or you can right click on some aspect of the screen and then click on Inspect Element, and that will open up the Google tools for you. Let's just scroll down there, and now you can see the code, the HTML behind this particular image. So I can see that this is the CSS for that image. It's got a margin, it's display inline, and it's floating left, 0 borders. I can see that the alt tag is WordPress for Beginners Kindle edition, and it's aligned left, and then this is the URL of the actual image. So over in this main box we're seeing the HTML behind that image. You can also see, if I put my mouse over the code here, up in the image, just above the image, it shows you the dimensions of the image. The image is 250 pixels by 308 pixels, and over on the right hand side here, if we scroll down, there's a section called metrics, and that will actually draw a box to show you the dimensions of that image. You know, we talked about the box model in the course. Well, this shows you exactly that. It shows you the margins and the padding. You see the margin is the outer one, and as I move my mouse over this diagram, you can see that the actual image on the web page, this is just a preview of the web page, it's not the actual web page. You can see it changes to show the highlighting of what I'm actually clicking on. So the image there is 250 by 308, and there's no padding and there's no border, but there is a margin of 10 around that image. So very quickly we can start inspecting elements of the web page. Now further up here we see the CSS cascading style sheets for this particular image. So you can see that it's displayed in line. Next to any of these elements, these style properties and selectors, you can see a checkbox. Any of those that have a checkbox you can disable by unchecking it. So if we get rid of the display in line, it doesn't actually affect the way the image appears. Float left, margin, that one does. You can see if I uncheck that, margin 10 pixels, the image actually moves as the margin is removed. We could even edit these values. So let's put a margin in of 20, and you can see that the image changes. Now this is just changing the preview, it's not changing the actual web page that anybody else will see. Okay, so if I want to select a different part of the screen to look at, let's say that the actual title here, which looks like it's hyperlinked, you can right click directly on it and select Inspect Image from the menu, and that selects it then, and then we see that code. Scroll down here, this is the code now, which is collapsible, so you can see the title there. It's not actually a hyperlink, it just is underlined. You can see the underline code here, the U and the closing underline tag. The other way you can select items on the screen is to click on this little magnifying glass and then go over and click on something on the screen, and that will then show you the code for that. So here we have a list item, and we've got the code behind the list item. Here's the HTML behind the list item, and we can again turn bits on and off. As you can see, the list items have a little star there, and that is controlled by this CSS rule over here. That star is sidebar list.png, that's the image. If I unselect this, you'll watch the stars in the list box. You can see they actually disappear. So we could remove that, and I could take out the padding here. This padding, remember, it's top, right, bottom, left. So on the left down here we've got an 18 pixel padding, and that would be because of the stars. So there is room to put the stars in. I change that to 0 pixels. You can see then that the list items go up against the border. So let's just change that back, and we'll have a look at something else. Let's have a look at, you can see this menu system up at the top. These are actually links to different parts of the website, but there's no underline. If you were interested to say, well, how do I do that? How do I not get an underline for those particular links? I can inspect the element, and then I've got the HTML code here and the CSS, and if we look down the CSS you can see that there is an item here, text decoration equals none. What I could do is I could deactivate that, and you'll see now that the links now have an underline. We can also play around with things, so let's have a look. The background color is this. Let's change it to yellow. Okay, and we can change it to any color we like. And remember, we're not changing the actual code or the CSS on the website. This is just a preview, so we can play around with the colors, we can play around with the CSS values and see what those changes would look like if we decided we want to go ahead with them. So now I've changed the colors of those buttons now. Now, at any time you want to go back to what the page really looked like to begin with, you can just click the refresh button in your browser, and the web page will reload with the code that's on the server and not the code that you've been messing about with here. See, we've got the buttons back the way that they were. Another nice aspect of using these developer tools is that if you select an item, let's just click on something, let's select that link there. What we can do is over here in the CSS, you'll see that it actually tells you the CSS as we've seen, but it tells you which line of the CSS style sheet that this CSS comes from. You can click on that link and the style sheet will open up in the big window over here, and you can actually again do live changes to this. So let's say we'll change this to let me just change that to white. You see now that the link has disappeared. So let's change that to black, and you see the link is now back. Now here we can see the focus, hover and active states of that particular hyperlink, and it's actually got an outline none. Let's just try changing that to outline solid and see what happens. Now you can see there's an outline solid around the link. So you can make changes to the CSS here, see what it would look like, and it even tells you which lines of the CSS style sheet that the various changes are found in. So if you want to go and make any of these changes permanent, you know exactly which lines to change in your style sheet.